Here's the truth. God's love is not a reward for you at your best. So this is not, I've prepared and highlighted for the test, and because I got an A+ on the test, I'm a perfect Christian and everything's great. No, God's love for you is not a reward at your best. It's a rescue at your worst. Faith gives you access to love. Okay, everyone say love, but here, before you say love, okay, I want you to say it like long, okay? It has to be a long version of love, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Love. For while we were still weak, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person, one would dare even to die. But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Okay, I want to go back to that illustration that he gives. Whenever the Bible gives you an illustration, you should just use it. Okay, and this is the illustration. Most of us wouldn't die for somebody who's absolutely righteous. Like if you did a list of your Facebook friends or your Instagram friends and you were to like weigh their good works with their bad works, none of us are righteous according to God's standard of holiness. But if we were to rack and stack our Facebook group friends list and we were to get the person that is the most righteous, or the person on that list that has the highest moral compass, or the person that's kept the law, okay, if I'm going to talk to a Jewish person in the first century, at the best of their ability, it's still hard to die for that person, right? Like it's still hard to go, you know what, take my life so that they can live. And yet, this is the very illustration we get when it comes to the gospel, because Christ died for us not when we were at the top of the list in morality, but when we were at our worst. Listen to the text. While we were yet sinners. Since therefore we have now been justified by his blood, much more shall we be saved by him from the wrath of God. For it is while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by his death of his Son. Much more, now that we are reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. I love that Paul uses like sound logic here. This isn't hard to understand. This is very simple and straightforward. It's the idea that if God was willing to rescue you when you were disinterested in him and at your worst, and you were just doing your sinful thing, and you were going in your own direction, and you were rebelling against God actively, premeditated sin, and you wanted things for your life. You had cravings and desires and ambition that was anti-God, that promoted yourself, that made you the God of your own life. And if God is willing to die for you then, how much more right now that you understand the gospel, and I hope you do this morning, you understand how beautiful Jesus is. You understand that his life is perfect, that he paid a sacrifice that you couldn't pay yourself, that when he rose again from the grave, it was a representation of God actually raising you to be seated with him one day in eternity. That how much more, Paul says, how much more if he died for you then, is he willing to reconcile you now and work in the circumstances in your life right now? Here's the truth. God's love is not a reward for you at your best. So this is not, I've prepared and highlighted for the test, and because I got an A+ on the test, I'm a perfect Christian, and everything's great. No, in fact, it's the opposite. God's love for you is not a reward at your best, it's a rescue at your worst. It's a rescue when you haven't even opened the book to study for the exam. You don't even show up to take the test, and Jesus, by his grace, says, I choose you, and he gives you the gift of faith through grace, and you, at your worst, become a work of God's hand. Ephesians 2 says that we are God's masterpiece, that we were created in Christ Jesus since before time began, to walk in good works. And here's the tension, right? As I share that, right? God's love is not a reward for you at your best, it's a rescue for you at your worst. That sounds really great, but Taylor, I live in a world where all these people in my life, human love does die for the deserving. Human love does actually show favoritism. Human love does sometimes prioritize self above others. Human love is imperfect. Human love doesn't always do the thing that we're supposed to do. Human love lets us down. Human love causes hurt. And that's why verse 8 is the heart of the gospel. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Picture God scrolling through the worst scenes in your story and still saying, yep, that's the one I'm going to die for. That's grace. If God loved you at your worst, you can stop pretending that you are at your best right now. If God loved you at your worst, we don't have to fake it. Okay, and this is so important for us as a church. So I want us to go back, Josh, if you could find it, that picture of like the church growth stages. And this, I'm going off script just a little bit here. But as I give you a final word this morning, before we read verse 11, the truth is that in order for us as a church to get to that performing stage, there's going to be a lot more storming and a lot more systems and structures that need to be established. And I think there's two tensions. On the one hand, the tension is that we do all the practical things, the scheduling, the planning, the fundraising, the systems, the organization, the training, and those practical things, hear me, have to be done, okay? People have to step into those things in order for the church to grow. But at the same exact time, and I just want you to know as your pastor, when we first moved to Charleston, when we first started gathering in our living room, what was really evident and obvious is there was a lot of elementary things that we needed to learn, such as peace, such as living in the joy of the Lord, such as hope, such as love, like really understanding that the war is over and there's peace in the world. Really understanding that I can have joy in the midst of hardship, and that actually the Lord tells us in the scriptures, I think this is in Titus, he says, suffer for Christ's sake. In other words, no matter what you do, you're going to suffer at some level. The question is, are you suffering for the right reasons? Are you suffering for gospel mission? Is your suffering tied to God's eternal plan for the world? And then do you have access in that suffering to hope? A hope that forges your faith, a hope that does not disappoint. And what I want us to see both practically but then also spiritually is that it's taken up until today for us to be at a place spiritually to where we're even ready to consider at a maturity level actually having a service in a public environment at a school where there's people who have a lot more problems, because the people that we're going to minister to, the teachers, the students, the parents, the access that meeting in a school is going to give us, there's a lot of people that have no peace. Right here in West Ashley. There's a lot of people that don't know the difference between a worldly definition of joy and a godly definition of joy. There's a lot of people in West Ashley right now that, here's their hope. Their hope is that they have a really good weekend and they're able to watch football this afternoon. And they don't know what it means to hope in a God that created them since before time began. They can't fathom that level of faith. And then certainly, there's a lot of people who have only experienced a partial, maybe half-hearted, and I don't mean to be insensitive, I'm just trying to be true, broken human love. Like they've experienced a love from mom or love from dad or a love from a brother or sister or a friend, but it's not unwavering, faithful, constant, consistent, unyielding love of the Father that is there day after day after day after day after day. They're not aware of a love that has been tested. They're not aware of a gospel love that says, yep, I'm going to die for them when they were at their worst. This is grace through the gospel that grants us access to peace, joy, hope, and love. And listen, the cliche thing is that I know you can get that on a sign at like, not Goodwill, but a Home Goods, okay? You could go into Home Goods this afternoon, you could find a sign that says peace, joy, love, hope, right? You can get, I guess you can get it at Goodwill too. That's a good point. Having it on your wall on a sign means nothing if you don't actually have it for yourself in your heart. I don't want you to leave from an environment like this or think about the future of 1027 Church and think, man, there's more that I have to study for. No, Jesus has already passed the test, and it's in response to him getting an A+ that we get to participate in his mission. Will you pray with me?